as you can see, I've named this worst studio session ever. So for those of you who think that you might just not be fit for music production, or you're just having some confidence problems, I want to give you a personal story of, just a terrible decision that I made when working for a client. And it's so embarrassing. But at the time, I was a little bit new to things. I thought I was good, but obviously when you look back, you're like, wow, I didn't know anything. And that's how it's always going to be, even if you're just starting. You'll look back on now and go, oh wow, I've come so far in such a short amount of time. But so I got, this was back in like 2001 or something like that. So it was a way back when I was first starting this. But I got, it might have been like a Craigslist response or something like that. But anyway, there was someone I lived in Riverside at the time. Now there's someone not too far, maybe about 15 minutes away from me, 15 or 20 minutes away. And they wanted me to come over and meet these hip hop guys, and wanted me to mix their songs for them, right? And once again, at the time, I was pretty broke. I had just kind of quit my job like a year before and trying to sustain myself with just kind of one little job at a time, taking on these music jobs and stuff. So I was trying to take everything I can get. Don't worry, I'm getting to the point. So I go over to these guys' houses, and all I remember is these rappers were just so stoned, and they were like making rhymes about their 7-Up. Like, still to this day, it's like something about got my 7-Up, drink it up. Now there's no 7-Up in my motherfucking cup. Pretty clever lyrics, I guess, or at least it cracked them up. So because they thought it was so funny, it stayed with me for 17 years. So whatever. So anyway, they sent me off. This was before the days where you could like email big files to each other. So you had to drive out, drop things off, burn DVDs or CDs or whatever. So they gave me a DVD with all the files to this song. And so I had driven all the way out there, picked up all these files, taken them home. And when I get home, I realized that they had, God, this is so embarrassing. So they had mixed all the separate parts, like they named them all separate parts, but every part was actually the full song, right? So there was like, I don't know, 15 tracks of like the full song, right? And I, once again, this was a bad decision because I was really broke at the time. I decided that what I was going to do is fix each of these individual parts with EQ. So like literally I would like pull out the highs and everything to get like the kind of the bass part, and then cut out the things to try to get like the vocal kind of in there, and then mix all these separate parts together to make this song. I don't know what I was thinking. But the thing is, I was too broke to like, I didn't have much gas in my car. And I didn't want to drive all the way back over there, hand them this thing, and then have to drive all the way back and everything. So I literally tried to mix this song with a bunch of like the same track, but just all EQ'd differently to try to get the individual instruments, right? So I drive this back thinking that I kind of nailed it or whatever, not really having much perspective at all. And I just remember they popped it in and they were just mortified, right, with how shitty it sounded. And they're like, what did you do? And then I tried to explain to them how I was such a genius because they had sent me like this, they'd sent me files totally incorrect. And I did the best I could with it, right? And of course, they were just like, why don't you just come and have us give you the proper mix downs? So now I've arrived at their place, totally embarrassed. I had enough gas in my car to get to the location, but I didn't have enough gas in my car to get home, right? I was expecting to drop off the mix, get paid, go to the gas station, come home with a few extra dollars. Well, I ended up almost in tears because they didn't want to pay me and I didn't have any money to even go home, you know, and it wasn't the best neighborhood either. So that was like a scary situation. I basically had to beg them for like $5 or $10 to get me home. And needless to say, they never called me again. I wonder why, right? So, boy, my story must have been really interesting. Everyone that was on totally dropped off. I thought it was an interesting story, so I'm going with it because it's embarrassing. But the reason I'm telling you this, obviously, is because you can make some of the worst mistakes, you know, and 99% of you are not going to make a mistake that ridiculous. So no matter where you think you are right now, I've probably made worse mistakes, and you'll probably make some bad mistakes too, but that doesn't mean that you don't have it in you, right? It just means that you need to persist and definitely don't make decisions when you're broke, all right? It's a really bad idea. So, yeah, that's my story, all right? So, worst studio session ever.